Salutations. British pronunciation explores the sound system of standard British English, from individual sounds to rhythm and intonation. 1. Standards of pronunciation. English is spoken with many regional accents. For this reason, English language teaching uses standard pronunciation models. They give teachers and learners one common pronunciation to learn, teach, and describe. This series uses General British, the standard pronunciation model of British English. General British has replaced traditional received pronunciation in modern public life. Over recent decades, the older accent softened its rigid class boundaries to blend with wider Southern English speech. This shift transformed an exclusive social accent into a neutral common model for everyday communication. Today, it is a regionally neutral pronunciation standard used in many dictionaries, textbooks, pronunciation courses, and examinations. It is not intended to represent the speech of a particular region or city. Mastering General British provides a solid foundation for accurate and consistent pronunciation. It also makes it easier to recognize and understand other varieties of English. 2. International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA. The International Phonetic Alphabet is a standardized system for representing the sounds of speech. It provides a consistent way of showing pronunciation regardless of spelling. Consider the pronunciation of the words nickname and unique. Although both words contain the letter I, phonetic notation shows that it represents different sounds. This is one of the main advantages of phonetic notation over ordinary spelling. Different publications and learning materials use either phonetic notation or pronunciation respelling. Respelling uses ordinary letters to suggest how a word is pronounced. As a result, it depends on the reader's knowledge of English spelling and cannot represent speech sounds precisely. Phonetic notation represents speech sounds directly. Some publications use their own phonetic notation for English, while others use the International Phonetic Alphabet. The IPA is an internationally standardized system. It uses a set of symbols to represent the pronunciation of any language, accent, or dialect. It can represent both phonemes, the speech sounds that distinguish words in a language, and allophones, different versions of the same speech sound that occur in different contexts. 3. The vocal tract and the speech cavities. To understand English pronunciation, it is first necessary to become familiar with the vocal tract. Speech begins when air flows from the lungs through the vocal tract. The airflow always passes through the pharynx. It is then directed either through the oral cavity or through the nasal cavity. Most English speech sounds are produced when the airflow passes through the oral cavity. For nasal sounds, the airflow passes through the nasal cavity while the oral cavity is blocked. Compare the following examples. In the word me, the airflow passes through both the nasal and oral cavities during the pronunciation of the word. In the word be, the airflow passes only through the oral cavity. Understanding how air flows through the vocal tract is the first step towards understanding how speech sounds are produced. 4. The lips, teeth, and roof of the mouth. Several important speech organs are located at the front and roof of the mouth. The roof of the mouth consists of three main parts: the alveolar ridge, the hard palate, and the soft palate, also called the velum. The speech organs involved in producing speech sounds are called articulators. Some articulators are movable, whereas others are fixed. For example, the lips and the soft palate can move, whereas the upper teeth, the alveolar ridge, and the hard palate are fixed. The soft palate controls whether air flows through the mouth or through the nose during speech. Compare the following examples. In pen, both lips come together to produce a bilabial sound. In fun, the lower lip touches the upper teeth to produce a labiodental sound. In rod, the airflow passes through the mouth. In nod, the airflow passes through the nose. 5. The tongue as the primary articulator. The tongue is the most flexible and most important articulator involved in speech production. The tongue contributes to the production of many speech sounds through its tip, blade, front, back, and root. Vowels are described according to these main features: tongue height, tongue position, and lip shape. Different parts of the tongue can be raised to different heights. Tongue position depends on where the highest part of the tongue is located. Vowels are therefore described as front, central, or back. Lip shape may be spread, neutral, or rounded. Compare the following examples. In seat, the front of the tongue is raised to a high position. In thought, the back of the tongue is raised to a mid position. The tongue also plays an important role in producing many consonants. 6. The larynx and speech production. Finally, the larynx contains the vocal folds, also known as the vocal cords, a term that is still widely used. They play a crucial role in voicing. The opening between the vocal folds is called the glottis. When the vocal folds vibrate, speech sounds are voiced. English distinguishes between voiced and voiceless consonants. Compare the following examples. In sock, class, and messy, the consonants remain voiceless regardless of their position in a word. By contrast, at the beginning or end of an utterance, voiced consonants are often only partially voiced and may even be completely devoiced, as in zip and rise. Full voicing usually occurs when a voiced consonant is surrounded by voiced sounds, as in easy. The vibration of the vocal folds is what distinguishes voiced consonants from voiceless consonants. 7. Front places of articulation. Unlike vowels, consonants are classified mainly by their place of articulation. Place of articulation describes where a consonant is produced. We begin at the front of the vocal tract and move gradually towards the back. The initial sound of bat is bilabial because both lips come together. The word fin opens with a labiodental consonant produced when the lower lip touches the upper teeth. The dental place of articulation is illustrated by the first sound of this, where the tongue touches the upper teeth. Finally, tech starts with an alveolar consonant articulated with the tongue touching the alveolar ridge. 8. Central places of articulation. Moving further back, we reach the central places of articulation. The word red begins with a postalveolar consonant, produced with the tongue approaching the area just behind the alveolar ridge. Ship illustrates the palato-alveolar place of articulation, where the tongue approaches the area between the alveolar ridge and the hard palate. Finally, yes starts with a palatal consonant because the tongue approaches the hard palate. 9. Back places of articulation. Finally, we arrive at the back of the vocal tract. The word con begins with a velar consonant because the back of the tongue touches the soft palate. The glottis is the final place of articulation. Unlike the previous examples, the first sound of hail is a glottal consonant produced at the glottis without contact between articulators. 10. Manners of articulation for consonants. Place of articulation describes where a consonant is produced, whereas manner of articulation describes how it is produced. The main difference lies in the way the airflow is shaped by the speech organs. In some consonants, the airflow is completely blocked and then released. In others, it passes through a narrow gap, through the nose or smoothly through the mouth. English consonants are grouped into 5 main manners of articulation: plosive, affricate, fricative, nasal, and approximant. Compare the following examples. The word toe begins with a plosive, jinx with an affricate, thumb with a fricative, nag with a nasal, and yoke with an approximant. 11. 2 consonants on the vocal tract. This diagram brings together the 2 ways of classifying consonants: place and manner of articulation. The initial sounds of date and zone are both alveolar because they are produced with the tongue at the alveolar ridge. However, they differ in their manner of articulation. In date, the tongue blocks the airflow completely before releasing it, producing a plosive. In zone, the tongue approaches the alveolar ridge, allowing the airflow to pass through a narrow gap, producing a fricative. Together, these examples show that consonants may share the same place of articulation while differing in their manner of articulation. 12. British English consonants. This diagram maps British English consonants onto the vocal tract according to their place of articulation. Notice how the pairs pawn and born, sue and sue, and coat and goat occupy the same position because they share the same place of articulation despite differing in voicing. The words pawn and born begin with bilabial consonants produced with both lips. Similarly, sue and sue begin with alveolar consonants because the tongue touches the alveolar ridge. Finally, coat and goat begin with velar consonants because the back of the tongue touches the soft palate. These examples show that consonants can share the same place of articulation while differing in voicing. 13. Vowel chart. The vowel quadrilateral is a visual representation of tongue height and tongue position during vowel production. It is not an exact representation of the tongue. Instead, it shows the relative positions of vowels in the mouth. The vertical dimension indicates tongue height from close to open. The horizontal dimension represents tongue position from front to back. A third feature is lip shape, which may be spread, neutral, or rounded. The vowel in patch is produced with the front of the tongue in a low position and the lips spread. In contrast, move is pronounced with the back of the tongue in a high position and the lips rounded. Together, these three features provide a practical way of describing and comparing English vowels. 14. British English Vowel Chart. This chart shows the standard British English vowel system in the International Phonetic Alphabet. Each symbol represents a different British English vowel sound. The chart organizes vowels according to tongue height, tongue position, and lip shape. Each vowel occupies a unique position based on these three features. Compare the following examples. The vowel in lead is located in the close front area of the chart. In contrast, the vowel in lock is found in the open back area. Vowels with similar characteristics are positioned closer together than those with different features. 15. Speech organs. This diagram shows how the speech organs work together during English articulation. The active articulator is usually the lower lip or a part of the tongue, whereas the passive articulator may be the upper lip, upper teeth, alveolar ridge, hard palate, or velum. Together, they determine the place of articulation of most English speech sounds. Most consonants are produced by oral articulation, in which an active articulator moves towards a passive articulator. For example, the initial sound of tense is a voiceless alveolar plosive. The tongue is the active articulator and the alveolar ridge is the passive articulator. By comparison, height begins with a voiceless glottal fricative, articulated at the glottis without contact between active and passive articulators.